Hello everyone and welcome to our match preview. As you can tell, I am a bit worse for wear. Taff is also a bit worse for wear. We will try and limit our coughing to a minimum. And we are here to preview Sunderland's Premier League clash with Leeds United. And this is a game that maybe 3 weeks ago looked
easier than it does now.
Yeah. That's probably the perfect way of putting it. Looks far more difficult after the... I don't know, did you watch the game on Saturday night for Leeds? They played Crystal Palace. Did you watch that match?
Yeah. Now, let me ask you about that. Is that because Crystal Palace were poor or because Leeds were really good? Palace had a very quick turnaround from their conference game.
They also didn't really play any of their first team players in it, though.
No.
But they also have one eye. I mean, what's more important for Crystal Palace? The game tonight against Arsenal, that I haven't even checked the score, so I will have a look at that for context. Because they are playing, as we record this, in the Carabao Cup, and it's 0-0. But yeah, what was more important for them? Was it that game on Tuesday? So did they maybe have half an eye on that?
Maybe.
Well, I thought Leeds were very good. I mean, when I watched it, Leeds reminded me very much of early season Sunderland.
Yeah, they did look very good. But Palace had, a good side out. Pretty much their best side was Munoz. Munoz was injured, I think.
Yeah, they don't have Saar either because he's went AFCON.
Yeah.
Who's the best player, arguably? Or one of the best?
Yeah. Pino's, developing relatively well. Wharton was playing. Yeah, look, I thought they looked a solid, tough to break down side. And they're quite a defensive side. They're one of the most successful sides of making tackles. So that was really a surprise result. Being pommeled by Leeds. It is a tricky game. Right? And I think if you go back 5 games to when Leeds played Man City at Man City, and they were winning 2-1. No, they were 2. It was 2-2.
No, City were 2-0 up, and then Leeds went back 2-2.
Went to 2-2, and then at the death, Man City won it. I think at that point, a lot of people, because they had that was their 6th loss in 8 games.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people were looking at Farke thinking, well, he's kind of gone now, and his job was on the line. And as a result of that, he stopped playing 4-3-3, and he has started to play 3-5-2, which is, it floods the midfield. It's a bit more aggressive. And he's done that for the last 4 games. He's won 2 of them and drawn 2. And those are notable games as well. So they didn't just pommel. Yeah, they pommeled Palace. They drew with Brentford. They drew with Liverpool 3-3. And I know we did as well. But I think that's still no mean feat. And they pommeled Chelsea 3-1. So these are no mean feats, I think.
Well, that Chelsea game, Farke apparently, that was the game that said that he would have been sacked if they didn't get a result in that one. That actually leaked before the game, and then obviously they win that 3-1. Now, the only thing I would say with Leeds is that I think against Crystal Palace, all 4 of their goals came from set pieces. Sunderland are pretty good at touch wood. I do that a lot on this podcast, video cast. Sunderland generally, though, are pretty good at defending set pieces, and I think as well, they've now played this 5-3-2 or 3-5-2, however you want to call it. They've now played it a few games. I think that means that we will probably have a blueprint to go against it. I think it'll be very interesting to see how we set up tactically for this game. But I think if we know anything about our manager, it's that he does have a plan and he will come up with something to do the opposite of what Crystal Palace did. Also, Leeds are away in this game. Their away record this season, I think they've picked up 4 points on the road this season. While you can also say that they've, since they've changed this formation, they've had 3 home games and not lost, and they've had that one away game at Brentford and drew. They also did technically change that formation at half-time against Man City, and they were 2-0 down when they did that and drew 2. Well, lost 3-2, but technically won the second half. I don't know. I think this is a really weird game for Sunderland. I think that had we played it when Nottingham Forest played them in November, I think we probably would have won this game quite comfortably. But I think this is a hard game for us, especially as well. If you look at Leeds' fixtures coming up after us, they've got to play Liverpool away, Man United at home, which is their biggest game of the season, I'm going to guess, and then you've got Newcastle away before the FA Cup. So you'd look at these 4 games if you're a Leeds fan, and probably look at the Sunderland game and the Man United home game as being where you're going to pick up your points, you would think.
I think that it's certainly a trickier fixture than it was a couple of weeks ago. Calvert-Lewin has now scored 6 goals in the last 5 games. He scored in each of the last 5 games. And I don't think that's because he's suddenly a remarkably better player. And, I just think that they're putting more balls on a plate for him. And that, that's a worry, the fact that they are able to do that. I saw that Ao Tanaka scored an absolute cracker. I think it was against Liverpool, the equaliser, last-minute equaliser.
Can I just quickly add this while we're talking about Dominic Calvert-Lewin, because I don't know if you saw this, but this is his goal map for the season.
So, I mean, these are all from crosses and things, aren't they? That he's knocking
all
in.
Stood in a straight line. I just thought that was really, really funny.
It is funny, but I also think it's hilarious. But, I mean, I think we can defend against that better than a lot of teams. But I thought that Palace were a good defensive side. So I don't really know. I mean, is that just an aberration of a result? Because if it is, then they've only picked up one proper win out of that. I don't know if we can write off that Palace result because we beat Brentford.
No, I don't think. I think Palace. They were playing Palace at like a really good time. They're playing them just into AFCON, so they've lost one of their best players. They'd also played in the Conference League. I know they played on the Thursday and they didn't necessarily have the strongest team up, but they still would have had to have prepared for that game. They still had these first team players on the bench. Some of them came on in that game as well. And then they've got a game on Tuesday night heading into the busy Christmas. I think Leeds got Palace at a really good time. But that isn't to take anything away from Leeds, because this is a massive... I mean, it's not often you see 4-1s in the Premier League between teams that aren't named Arsenal, Liverpool, Man City. That just very rarely happens that you see these sorts of results. I think it's a real statement win, but I don't think that this win... I mean, who was it? Somebody talked about Leeds Madrid, weren't they, in our comments the other day?
Yeah.
I don't think that Leeds Madrid. I don't think we should be massively worried, but I do think that, they have threats. They are very physical. They are possibly one of the most physical teams in the league alongside us. That's going to be an interesting battle. That midfield they've got with Stack and Ampadu. I mean, they played Brendan Aronson in there. You'd like to think we would be able to get at Brendan Aronson, but they've got a pretty strong midfield. Will Xhaka and Geertruida and Lefay win that battle, but I'd fancy them too. And then at the back, they've got 3 big centre-backs who are going to win headers and stuff, but, that we're putting Brobby up against that. Brobby will be physical and will be able to compete with that. But does it mean we get overloads elsewhere on the pitch? I mean, how important are our wingers in this game when they're only playing one set of fullback, like one set of wing players? How important is it that our wingers have a good game, and is that how we win this game of football?
I mean, they've still conceded 6 goals in those last 4 games. Now, we've conceded far less than that, I think, although it depends probably not with the Man City game, actually. But
when was the last time Leeds kept a clean sheet? Have Leeds kept a clean sheet? They last kept a clean sheet in August. So, I mean, they're obviously defensively pretty poor.
So they may have found goals, and they might have found a different system that other people are struggling to adjust to. And it's been quite a while since a team consistently played 5 in midfield. There was a period like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when teams did that, maybe longer, when teams did that a lot, and they would play 3-5-2 or 3-5-1-1 or whatever. And the midfield just got so bulked and messy that nobody could score anywhere. And it was pretty daft football until some teams started trying to say, well, how do we get around this? I mean, I think that it will get found out again, and you have to wonder about the caliber of players when they get found out later on in the season. But it's working for them at the minute. they are scoring goals, but I think a lot of those goals are in an area like aerially and crossing that we're pretty good at. And the important thing for Sunderland, I think, is that they are still conceding goals, and they still concede a lot of goals. Now, that's not to say that we're wonders at scoring them, but we are better than most teams. Crystal Palace aside, I have to say, which is why that result was such a shock. We are better than the teams they play for keeping goals down. So they won't score as many against us, if at all. We do a really good job of shutting teams out, and they still concede. And I would go into this game at home expecting to score, and I think we've got a good chance of not letting them score. But if they do score, we really should be able to score 2 against Leeds, I would think, given their defensive setup, and particularly with 3 at the back.
Yeah, I think
they also have.
Sorry, go on.
They also have 2 players on yellow cards, in terms of Ampadu and Bogle. So they have 2 of their midfielders, 5 on 4 cards. Now, maybe that makes no difference, but you saw that it made a difference to us when we played Man City in the Xhaka, and who else was on a yellow? Xhaka and Siddiqui. Yeah, when they would track players and run next to them and try and close them off rather than try and take a tackle. Now Xhaka may still do that at the weekend.
You got Xhaka and LUFC on 4 now.
Yeah, so I don't know if that stifles any players doing things, but I would really like to see people running at Bogle if he's playing on as wing back for them, because he's on 4 yellow cards. I would really like to see us running at Bogle.
Yeah, I think it's interesting from a Leeds perspective, because Leeds are really hard to understand because they've had this very, very contrasting change. They've almost had like a new manager come in, such as the difference in the style of play. So they've went from being a team that liked to keep the ball and were a bit shorter in their passing and slow build up to a long ball team. Normally when you see that happening from a 4-3-3 that's quite passive to a 3-5-2 that's quite aggressive and long ball, that's what happens when a new manager comes in. They've kind of done that. They've almost, you see in the last 4 games, that's what it looks like to me when you watch Leeds. They look very, very different. That's what makes this really hard to judge as a game, because we aren't playing the Leeds of a month ago, but that isn't to say that Leeds of a month ago doesn't still exist within this Leeds team, and they won't come to the Stadium of Light, and they're not going to play as well as they did against Crystal Palace because they're away from home. When they went to Brentford, they did okay, but they drew the game 1-1. They possibly should have won it, but that team looked nowhere near as scary. If we're playing that Leeds team that played Brentford, then I'm pretty confident we can get a good result. But when you see them do what they did against Crystal Palace, you do think, oof, are we getting this team at the wrong time?
If you are Leeds currently and you're coming to the Stadium of Light and Sunderland are undefeated at the Stadium of Light, what are your expectations coming here this weekend?
I think that for a Leeds fan, they just want to get a draw. I think get a draw, get out.
Yeah. You don't think they come here looking to win, thinking they can?
I think they think they can win, but I think that they'll approach it kind of in a look, can we score goals off set pieces and counter attacks? But I think Leeds will come in and probably sit. I mean, if we're being brutally honest, I don't think Sunderland necessarily want to take the game to Leeds and leave themselves open to what Leeds want to do. That's why I think it's quite an interesting game.
It is. I think Daniel Farke comes here, and I think Daniel Farke would like to go 5 games unbeaten. So I think he comes here. I think he's cautious. I think he takes a draw.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, I'd like to see us run at Bogle. I mean, 3-5-2. We also have 5 in the midfield because we play 2 and 3 in the midfield.
Well, let's talk about our team then. Let's talk about how we're going to line up. So how do you see the team shaping up?
Well, I think we play the same back 5 as we did against Brighton, which is Hume at left back. We've discussed that many times, but I don't see an alternative at the minute. He does well enough there, and I think we showed in the Brighton review that people worry about him being right-footed, facing crosses coming in from that side. That actually that wasn't what happened. So he must have done a decent job. And you made the point that it enables him to defend better for inverted wingers, which is much a more popular thing.
Well, interestingly, he's going to be coming up
yeah.
against Bogle's a right-footed right back, and he'll be playing on the left. So this week you'll actually be playing against a right footer, not a left footer.
You sure? I thought Bogle played on the left last week.
No, Goodmanson's the left back and Bogle's the right back.
Yeah, that's what I thought. But I must have misread. Against Leeds, Bogle played right wing back.
Against Leeds?
Sorry, against Palace. Is that right?
Yeah, Bogle plays right back, which means he'll be playing against our left back.
That's
so
Hume,
right. Yeah, Hume, because he's playing left back, will be going up against a right-footed winger because Leeds they've only got one winger. Well, they've got wing backs.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm okay with him being there. I think long term we need a better left back solution because I mean it's a hard comparison because Reynildo's like one of the top left backs in the country, so it's a really tough comparison. But I'm more than happy to have Hume there as we need to. It'd be nice to get a good left back, young up and coming left back in the transfer window. Give him 6 months. I don't know how long we'll have Reynildo, but he's got such an engine on him. It wouldn't surprise me if he played all through next season as well.
He's only 31. He's not 40.
Yeah, he's not going anywhere, I shouldn't think. So, long term, I think we need another one, but I'm not worried at the minute. So I'll have Hume at left back, and then Ballard and Alderete. Those two are like the Straits of Gibraltar, pillars of Hercules, them two. And then I'll have Mukiele at right back, who is fantastic at offering an attacking threat. So I'd be very happy for him.
Is there any world where we match a 5 at the back? Now, I'm not saying this is what I'm doing. I'm playing devil's advocate here. I want to play back, but is there a world where we play 5 at the back because they play with 2 strikers and we go, right, okay, do we need the extra man in there to deal with Leeds playing potentially Calvert-Lewin and Nemecha or Calvert-Lewin and Okafor? Or do you worry about that or not?
I think if we still had Reynildo available, then yes. But the extra man in defence would be from Hume as the right back who folded into the midfield to support playing out, and Mukiele moving over to right back. But because we don't have Reynildo, I don't think that's a viable option for us now.
Yeah.
But what's just be wrong? I mean, last week we didn't even consider Habib Diarra would come on for half an hour, did we?
Well, I said he might start, to be fair. No, was it you that said that too? I can't remember. I said it to somebody once he came into the team that he might get a start. Maybe it wasn't.
Yeah.
Right, in the midfield then, I presume we're going with the Xhaka, Lefebvre, Gertruda.
Yeah, I thought he was outstanding against Brighton. I thought again in the Brighton review we tried to demonstrate how positive his play was and his forward passing, his progressive passing, bringing Bromley and Adingra into the game more than any of the other midfielders, which is perhaps a surprise because Lefebvre seems to be the more dynamic and creative player. But actually, Gertruda did really, really well. I thought it was his best game in a Sunderland shirt last week, and I would like to see him start alongside Xhaka. So, yes, that's my back 5, same as last week. And then the big question is wingers, because I thought our wingers were... I mean, I thought Adingra had a decent game, but I thought Rig did not. He didn't do anything particularly wrong, just didn't offer enough.
I think that because Leeds, in my opinion, we can get at Leeds on wings because the way they're set up, they are overloading the middle of the park. They're basically playing 3-3-2. In the middle of the park, they are trying their best to dominate and win second balls. That means that, in theory, our fullbacks and our wingers should have a bit more freedom. Therefore, I don't think you can play a Chris Rigg because he's not an actual winger. What we need out there is an actual winger. For me, the temptation is to go with Mayenda out there because he will pin fullbacks back because they won't want to leave him up there.
No.
You know what I mean? They're not going to want to leave that because he's obviously such a goal-scoring threat. You could also play Mundle or swap Mundle and Adingra about. I don't know what way you'd want to play them.
Yeah.
But I think that this is a game where we need to see 2 out-and-out wingers. So even though I did advocate in the Brighton review, sort of said that I want to see Rigg get a bit more game time and get a few more starts, I actually think situationally in this game, Chris Rigg doesn't make sense because I don't think he's a big
Yeah.
enough threat on the wing because he's not an actual winger.
Yeah. And he didn't. He struggled to connect with the team last week in terms of passes and creativity, and defensively. So yeah, I would agree. It sounds like you said 2 out and out ringers. So it sounds like you're going to plumb for a Dingra and
Yeah,
Mundell,
Adingra should
or
play. I think
a
it should.
Dingra and
If it
Mundell.
was me picking it, I think I would probably pick Adingra and Mayenda. If it was me picking the team.
Well, I quite like Mayenda as a right wing option because he can move inside. And if you think about the engine behind Mukiele, the fact that he gets up on
Yeah.
the pitch so much and he takes those throw-ins as well, the fact that he is such a creative force and an attacking force down the right back, that would allow Mayenda to move into the half space as that winger. And in attack, he becomes a striker that could link with Brobbey or Isidore, because I think we've had real problems and I feel really sorry for Brobbey in that. And I see a lot of chat about the January transfer window coming up about people saying we need to buy another striker. But I agree with you. I don't think that's the problem. You can buy as many strikers as you like. We just don't get the ball to them in dangerous positions enough for it to make a difference. And I don't think Brobbey's had a real flow of attacking balls been presented to him to show what he can do. I think he's done a marvellous job holding the ball up, turning the ball, getting what little chances he has away. So having Mayenda on the pitch as the right wing with Mukiele coming up behind him allows Mayenda to move inside, might give Brobbey a bit more support and might mean that we have more of an attacking threat up there. You look at those pass maps I always put up each week and our striker is always so isolated. And I don't think another striker is the problem. I think it's being more creative is the issue.
Can I give it a reason why to play Isidore?
Yes.
So if you look at Leeds' last 4 games, we'll look at the ones that they've been undefeated in. Right, Palace play with Mateta, who is a more of a target man type. Brentford play that Thiago, who is more of a target man type. Liverpool, they conceded 3 goals in. So Liverpool in that game played with Ekatike, who had a lot of luck, and Ekatike is not really a target man type. Chelsea lined up with Liam Delap up front, who is a target man type. So, does it make sense to, against Leeds' 3 bulking centre-backs, who aren't very quick but are very physical, very dominant in the air, does it make sense, therefore, to almost bypass that physical threat in transition and instead play a player who is quicker? Because if you look at what I've just showed you there, when Liverpool, I mean, obviously I'm not saying Hugo Ekatike and Wilson Isidore are comparable in terms of quality. Clearly they are not. But if you look at the other players, Brobbey is more like Mateta, Thiago and Delap than what Isidore is. And I think Leeds have done a good job playing against those big bulking strikers. So is there an argument maybe that playing Mayenda on the right and Isidore through the middle and playing it on the floor in terms of transition makes more sense than trying to lump the ball sort of long to Brobbey and get him to hold the ball up when he is going to struggle against Leeds' big-ass defenders?
You say he's going to struggle, but Leeds are still conceding goals. So how powerful are they? I've only seen one defender being able to control Brobbey. The rest of the time, Brobbey has bullied defences that he's played against. He bullied Arsenal's defenders when they had their best defender on the pitch. And I think the only person I've seen dominate Brobbey is Calvin Bassey at Fulham. Is the only person who I saw control him out of all the times I've seen him play. So I don't think it's a given. I mean, do you think Pascal Strike or Jake Bijol, do you think they can bully Brobbey?
Rodon? I think a combination of Strike, Biola and Rodon and Ampadu, who also ticks in there. I mean, all I'm saying is it's a physical defence without much pace, I suppose is the point I'm trying to make.
But I and the only point I make can counter that. I mean, I agree with you, but the only counterpoint I make is that I've only seen one person physically bully Brobbey, and that was Calvin Bassey. Perhaps, but also, equally, Wilson struggles sometimes with the fact that, if you have anybody with pace, that they can bully Wilson off a ball quite easily.
I think the other issue is that Leeds are likely to sit in a pretty low block, thus negating the need for pace. But I think it's an interesting one though, because I think when I was looking at Leeds' results, that's the one thing I sort of picked out in terms of what they're playing against. A, they're conceding a lot of goals, but B, the teams they've played against have all had sort of strong target men in the mould of Brian Brobby, and Liverpool didn't. And Liverpool scored 3, whereas the others have all just scored 1. That was essentially the point I was trying.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fine. I think that Leeds, like we said at the top of the programme, I think Leeds and Farke will come here looking to go 5 games unbeaten. I think you're right. I don't think they will necessarily play with a high line. So, and I'm wondering if you play Mayenda, I would love to see him link up with Brobby. So I would start with Brobby. He's been playing so well lately. But you know, Wilson is a confidence player. He loves playing at home. He does well at home. I don't know. Do you start Mundle instead of Adingra?
No.
If you're having Mayenda.
Plays.
And what would you say about Mundle on the left and Adingra on the right?
I'd be fine with that. Yeah, that works for me.
Yeah.
But I think in this game, because of the way that Leeds set up with just wing backs, it almost gives us the opportunity to cheat a little bit in that sense of having 2 very aggressive attacking wing. I mean, I know Mundle's good defensively, but I think it does give you the opportunity to play Adingra and Mayenda, say, who aren't necessarily going to be the greatest defensively, because I would expect our fullbacks to be able to deal with their wing backs.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I don't mind that. I'm just trying to look at their pass formations and things in these recent games for Leeds. I don't think I can find it. So yeah, I don't mind
the bypassing, and it goes basically the strikers, and then the second balls are picked up by these Leeds players, which is actually something we're quite good at, picking up second balls. So be intrigued to see how that goes on the day.
I have against. I have their. If you just give me a second here, I have their pass network against Palace, which is perhaps a little bit surprising. Let's see if we can't have a look at that. Because given that they scored 4 goals, you'd expect them to be pretty aggressive, pretty high up the pitch, and all sorts of things like that. Would you not agree?
Yeah.
You'd expect them to be. Yeah, but if I can grab it here and put it up, this is their pass network against Leeds. There we are.
They're not against Leeds. They're against Crystal Palace.
Sorry, I know. It's the second time that. I'm not well. I'm not well. So I mean, they sit quite low there. That's quite a low set, I think. There's not much passing going on beyond the halfway line. So that for a team that wins 4-1, that's pretty low set, I think. So they're not necessarily. I don't think they will be hugely advanced against us. And even if I look at their sort of final third and have a look at their pass nets of the final third, they sit, they sit well outside the 16-yard box as well. So I don't think that they are going to be a particularly aggressive side. And I also think that we should be able to defend our box pretty well, because Xhaka and Hertraudo will sit in front of the D in that sort of zone 14 spot. So I think that we'll be all right. Let me just put this up here then if I can. Yeah. There we go. I'll add it to the keyboard. Or maybe I just hit it hard. I don't know.
Aggressive. With a 5-finger death punch. Is that what you were doing? Typing?
Possibly. There we are. There's their progressive. This is against Palace. Again, that's considerably low set. They don't look like they're getting out of to the flanks a lot. Certainly not to the right flank. So they don't seem to be. I mean, I'm just worried about that Palace result being a bit of an aberration. I mean, maybe I'm hopeful about that. But they don't strike me when you look at their pass network or their final third network that they are a very advanced team who is suddenly very aggressive.
How was
That's some way outside.
How was the old XG for that game?
Well, I mean, you know how vast it varies on various sites.
Okay, well, I'm going to look at FootMob.
Yeah.
2.67 to 1.57. That was the...
Well, 2.67. Yeah. They had they had about the same. Yeah, they had about 2. They're about the same. Yeah, about 1.5 for Palace. 2.6 to 1.5. Yeah,
but also
I just
Palace did have a
go on.
penalty, which adds significantly to XG, doesn't it? A penalty.
I mean, is that 0.9 a penalty?
Something like that. 0.8, something like that. I mean, for somebody who doesn't like XG like me, I do know. Funny enough, my YouTube actually fed us a video the other day about why XG is a load of rubbish. Clearly, they've been listening to my podcast.
Okay.
So, I think overall, if we're just going to tie this up in a nice bow, I think playing Leeds at a bad time, yes. Leeds present some interesting questions, yes. Sunderland, though, even with players at AFCON, should still have more than enough to get something from the game. That's my sort of thought. And I think we would have to play bad for Leeds to get something, like a victory from the game. I think we have to play bad, they have to play pretty well. But I think if we turn up and do the basics right, as we often do, I think even if Leeds turn up and play okay and play pretty well, I think we'll probably get a draw.
I agree. I think that Farke will come here looking to go 5 games unbeaten. I don't think they'll come here looking for an aggressive win. They don't actually play that aggressively, even though their formation and the scoreline at Palace seems to suggest so, maybe in short bursts and long balls. But I think defensively in our back 5, we are more than able to cope with that. It is a question of whether we can be more creative than we have been lately. But I think the way that Leeds set up might allow us to be a bit more creative. So we shall see. I certainly think, I agree, it's an interesting time. When I say interesting, I mean awkward probably. But I'm not entirely convinced by their recent results. And so I am hopeful that the worst we would do here would be a draw. That would be the worst we would do, I think.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that I've got trust in the Sunderland team that they won't lose a game against a bottom half team, which is what Leeds essentially are. And also, Leeds can't maintain being this good forever.
No, no. I think it's caught some people out. I think it can overload the midfield, particularly against an aggressive side who plays fast and high and works on a lot of possession. It can overload them. And you made the point earlier that they look like how Sunderland started the season when we were playing lots of quick balls from back to front and sitting, deep. And I think there's something in that catching people out, because you suddenly have to think about. I mean, not now because they've done it for 4 games, but if you're Liverpool and you see what they do for 1 game or half a game, you have to think, well, are they going to do that again or not? And so there is a sense of the closer you play them to that Farke change in the second half against Man City, the less likely you are to say, well, that's how they're lining up against us and to prepare for it. But I think 4.5 games later, they come to us, and I think Bris will be ready for that. I think they'll come here with less aggression because they won't want to lose. They want to get 5 games on the bounce and go back home. And I think that we have a very good chance. And I think the only different team that I would play to the weekend is I would swap out Rig for perhaps Mayenda, or I would swap the wings and put Dingra on the right and Mundle on the left. But I would still start Broby. I think the back 5 picks itself.
Yeah, I would agree. The only argument I would necessarily make against starting both Dingra and Mundle is just it gives you less options off the bench to change it as the game goes on. Fewer. So...
Sorry, too.
Nearly 2 hours into recording all these episodes, and finally, after 34.5 minutes of the second one, you've come in and
all right.
Give us a yellow card.
I think Mundle's stronger defensively, so I could see the benefit of playing him.
Yeah, I would like to see Dingra. I just think Dingra needs to get games, and I think we'll see the.
And he had a good game. He had a good game.
The more he plays, the better he'll be.
Yeah. Remember, he had no own half possession losses against Brighton.
Yeah.
I know that I spent a lot of the game looking for mistakes and came away disappointed, but when I reviewed it and thought about it, he actually played really well.
Yeah. Are you at the game on Sunday?
No, I'm not. I'm not at the game on Sunday. No,
No,
and I'm neither. I've had to give away my Leeds tickets. I'm not allowed to go.
Oh.
I've been away at too much football. Basically, I had to choose. I had to choose between Leeds and Man City. I'm sure lots of people are in this situation, so I'm at Man City.
I think I would have chose the Leeds game.
Well, from that you can deduce that the choice was not entirely mine.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay. Well, thanks everyone for watching. Have a nice Christmas and New Year and all that sort of good stuff. And we'll see you for our Leeds review. Hopefully, it'll be a happy video heading into the new year as we aim to beat Man City as well. And end
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to all. Bye.